911, what's your emergency?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the PIO podcast, a place to discuss all public information related topics for police, fire, EMS, and local and federal government organizations.
It was a good learning experience for a lot of us that social media is not real life.
But we have to remember the media are very rarely a target audience. They're simply that conduit.
Our words have impacts on individuals, and it may not be positive. So just being thoughtful and mindful of the words that we speak.
I think what's so interesting about this position too, and this job and this profession, is that every one of us is looking for purpose. And when we find it here, that's it.
To know is that a crisis for one is not necessarily a crisis for another.
So you always have to look at it at interview equals opportunity. It's opportunity to tell your side of the story, even if it's a few sentences. So no comment, no statement drives me nuts.
Welcome to season 3 of the PIO podcast. We've added a bunch of new content for this season. We have a video blog, we will have enhanced social media, and we will be running a Patreon. So before we begin, a quick note from our sponsors. This episode is sponsored by the Social Media Strategy Summit, the leading provider of social media education. They host annual events designed specifically for government communications professionals like you to help you build and engage your communities through social media. Visit their website at socialmediastrategiessummit.com to learn more and use promo code PIO podcast for 10% off of your registration. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the next episode. Good afternoon. Today on the PIO podcast, we have public relations guru Tamrin Olden. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Guru. I like that intro.
Yes, you are definitely a public relations guru.
Thank you.
So Tamrin, looking at your background and I came across this line, I think you said in an interview, that you were voluntold to be a public information officer.
That is true. My actual main assignment at the police department was the crime prevention and community outreach. I did not do PIO. Social media kind of was still new at the time. I'm a little old, so that dates me a little bit because that wasn't even really prevalent. And what they were doing in the system that they had down in dealing with PIO just wasn't working. It was an ancillary assignment of the IA lieutenant who hated doing it. And they said, hey, we need someone who can do this proactively on a regular basis. And so I got called into the chief's office and the rest is history. I mean, yes, sir, copy that. And there you go. I was off and running.
So that's not something you wanted to do. You just you're going to do it.
Yeah. And, kind of the thought process behind it when the chief explained it, sat me down and explained it to me was that, we need to have people and maximize their skill sets and their experience. And also looking at it from a longevity standpoint and the importance of long-term relationships and how important that is in being a successful PIO. So we can't be having every 2 years it rotating and then the lieutenant's tied up with, critical incidents and hiring and firing, because that's what they do over in the IA world, and then be able to adequately serve in the PIO role. So that's kind of how that happened. And, it made sense and it was smart because the system that we were using wasn't working. And he realized, hey, Tamrin already does community relations. This is an extension of that. So it just kind of made sense to make that move.
Okay, so let's talk about the department you work for, Chino Police Department. How big is it? What's the population?
So they right now are about, I would say, a medium-sized police department. And if I have it correct from the last time I checked, it's 30.2 square miles because I had to know the exact. And definitely a growing community. And I would say right now, I believe they're close to a little over or around around 150 sworn on the sworn side. So I would say kind of a medium sized department.
Okay. And what's the population like for Chino?
It's right around, I believe, 100,000.
Okay. And for people that are unfamiliar where Chino is, can you get a geographic area?
Okay, so it's probably 30 miles inland from LA and Orange County.
So would that be the Inland Empire?
Yes, that would
okay.
be considered Inland Empire, where you have San Bernardino, Riverside County, Inland Empire area. Yes.
Okay. All right. That makes a lot more sense for some people and for me even. So I
Yes.
appreciate that.
I know people are like, where is that? A lot of times people think I'm saying Chico when
Oh.
I say, no, it's Chino.
Yeah, I get it. So you've been there 12 years and you didn't have a journalism background or a communications background, correct?
No, not at all. I actually had a degree in psychology and a minor in criminal justice. And my initial passion was to do psychology in the public safety space, either as a correctional counselor or police psychologist.
Let's dig a little deeper into that. How did that morph into working in the crime prevention community outreach role?
So it was by complete accident. I was in college and, saw the city was hiring and had a decent paying, flexible part-time position over on the city side and worked well with my college schedule and, benefits and all that. So I started there, and then a position doing a similar role, doing outreach and public relations and crime prevention over on the PD side. There was a promotional opportunity came up for me. So I thought, oh, okay, that's cool. And I have an interest in criminal justice. It's a good foot in the door for me for the direction I want to go. And then just more opportunities came up, and I really learned to love the PR side of public safety. And it wasn't intentional. That wasn't my goal. Of course, with a psychology degree and doing organizational psychology and a lot of the social psychology, I'm still able to use some of the concepts, but definitely not what I went to school for. That's for sure.
Okay. Explain this to me. How big is your unit itself? How many people are in your unit?
Over at Chino?
Yeah.
So when I was there at the department, we initially started with a specialist and a supervisor. And then when I had left, we had the manager or supervisor, which I had eventually promoted into. And we had a group of 3 to 5 volunteers and interns, 2 full-timers and a part-timer. So we were, over the time that I was there, able to develop and expand the program, because it started to include PIO, social media outreach, event planning, volunteer. And so all of that kind of morphed into a community relations unit. So that's where it was at when I left.
Okay. So you leave and you go where? What do you do from that point?
So I had already started doing my side hustle of law enforcement social, doing teaching and consulting and working with Mike Byers on doing some web development. So that had already started back in 2016. So I was kind of doing double duty. I did go over to the DA's office briefly and, ended up just leaving the full-time public safety government space to just pursue and take a leap of faith and go all in on my side business, and was able to transition it over to a full PR firm. So TOC PR is celebrating its 3rd birthday this week or next week, this month. So it's grown and expanded since then. So it's been 3 years that I have been out of the full-time government space.
Okay. So you're doing training, you're doing crisis comms for whoever asked for it. So there's been a lot of crisis stuff in the last couple of weeks that have happened.
Yes.
It's been very interesting, hasn't it?
It has. It's so funny because I'm sure, people reach out, and ask your opinion or questions, or you also yourself kind of run yourself through the scenarios of, hey, if I was dealing with that, what would I do? Or, you Monday night quarterback somebody, because, that's what we tend to do. But yes, it's definitely, there's been a lot going on. And it doesn't seem to slow down either. It always seems like in the government and public safety space, because of social media, there's always big problems that are coming up, I mean, on a daily basis.
Yeah, I just saw the story. I think it's out of Kentucky with the police department there, where there's a female officer that resulted in her physical activities resulted in
Oh,
six
I think
officers
it's
getting
Tennessee, right? I think
Tennessee.
it was
That's what it is.
Tennessee.
Yes, yes.
Yes. I know. So many people had messaged me that and was like, oh my gosh, Tamrin. And, sitting back, watching the comments and seeing the statements and what was put out publicly. And oh my goodness. And, that's always the worst. And so many agencies and PIOs get in the habit of, oh, we'll never have an active shooter here. We'll never have a critical incident or a controversy or a scandal. And I don't care who you are. It's not a matter of if, it is definitely when you will be facing that. And, I even had to deal with a personnel incident that was public, and it's tough.
They're very tough. Yes.
They don't come up very often, thank goodness. But when they do, they're very challenging to navigate, and you have to be prepared for that.
It seems like lately for my department, it has been a nonstop. We're getting gut punched like weekly with some things that are old, things that have come out of nowhere that are leftovers. And oh boy, the team that I work on, we're a great team, but it's sometimes there are days when we're like, oh my God, thank God it's Friday, we can leave.
Right, exactly. But are you really off?
No,
you are never really off as a PIO. We know that.
No, never. Never. All right, so let's talk about the agency that you used to work for. How big was your budget when you left?
So I originally started with no budget for PIO stuff. I actually was self-funded for a long time, and that's how I ended up getting somewhat of a budget, as I was using software and equipment that I had paid for and that I had owned, and then kind of pulled back the reins and went, hold on, if you guys want to keep using this and you see the success and why we need it, you guys got to kick down some money. So we were able to get a budget. To be honest with you, it was not much. We got a line item in the budget, which was a big deal, where we actually had our own budget, but it was really just a couple $1,000s for training and software, which is very minimal. It's crazy. Isn't
that amazing that law enforcement agencies will throw money out for software left and right for hundreds of thousands of dollars?
And this is no dig to anybody else in other departments and units, but okay, the SWAT team wins all new gear that costs $50,000 when they just got new gear last year, and they will find money for it. But I need $1,000 for a camera lens, and it's like, no way. So it is, and obviously the tactical gear is very important. I'm not minimizing that, but the disparity is insane.
And when you think about what we have to deal with and the messaging that we have to do, if we can't monitor what's being said and we don't have a monitoring tool to do it, it makes it very tough. You can only go through so many messages on Twitter or Instagram or whatever and hope you catch the right one.
Yeah, exactly. And it's difficult because just with any assignment, you need to have tools, resources, training, equipment to be successful. And I was lucky enough to have a little bit of experience and proficiency that I had learned over when I worked on the city side for the first couple of years before moving over to the PD with grants. And I was able to find grant funds, asset forfeiture, COPS grants, even private entity grants to fund a lot of the stuff, because it was just difficult to be able to get money in the budget. So we were able to get creative and make it work. But I know that it is very common for agencies to not have any budget at all.
And it's a one-person job, and you're doing 5 other jobs, and the PIO job is considered secondary.
Yeah, exactly. Ancillary assignments, typical, when it really is a full-time job.
So Tamrin, what's your thoughts about social media monitoring software being helpful in a crisis?
I mean, I think it's so key, especially in a crisis situation where there is information overload. We all know we're flooded in the digital space with information and intel that's coming through. One of the justifications that I know a lot of organizations have, and that I was able to leverage myself as well, is that a lot of these listening tools can also be used on the investigative side. So a lot of times your crime analysis teams, will be able to have funding, or they'll have budget where that you can tap into, where they're able to get software licenses to use it for investigative purposes, that you can also tap in for the PIO side. So absolutely such a valuable tool, well worth the purchase, because the time comes when you're dealing with being inundated with thousands and thousands of messages and information coming in the digital world. There's no way you can keep up with it, and it'll end up the one time you need it, you're going to see the value in it.
Have you guys, in your department, in your experience, did you guys ever experience an active shooter?
We not a true active shooter incident. I mean, shootings, but not to the scale of what you've been seeing nowadays.
I know the one that my agency just handled several months ago. It just, and I happened to be on vacation. I was out of town.
Oh my
God!
gosh.
Yeah, and I left on the week before Thanksgiving, and it happened on the 22nd. And next thing you know, it's up for grabs, and it was just a sergeant and a lieutenant that were running around like crazy, and myself and the girl that runs our social media, she was on vacation as well. So we were down from a 4-man unit down to a 2-man unit, and had to handle all of that. We were very lucky. Our city comms team is like 13 people. So we were able to tap into them and pull them into the mix. Unfortunately, I could do nothing because I didn't even bring my laptop.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I felt horrible.
Yeah, that is definitely the, worst thing to deal with. We've obviously done mutual aid for ones in the area, because there's quite a few out in San Bernardino County area. But, we had one that was a little bit smaller scale at a grocery store. But those are definitely things that you have to be prepared for. And you have to run those scenarios through your head. And one of the things that I used to do is when there was something that would happen that was in the news or even in the region, if it was in our local area, I would sit there and I'd listen to the radio traffic, I'd watch the news, and I'd run through kind of a scenario for me of, okay, if I was dealing with this, what would I do? What would I have to be thinking of? What notifications? Who would I call for mutual aid? What agencies are involved? Because you don't get to practice those all the time, but they're I don't want to say perishable skills, but things that you need to stay sharp on. So anytime there is an incident in the area, it's so important to stay on top of it and to kind of use that as a tabletop exercise, I guess you would say.
Absolutely. So Tamrin, I don't know if this has ever been your experience, but have you found that at sometimes with some of the law enforcement supervisors that they overlook notifying the PIO?
Oh my goodness. Story of our lives. And it was funny because, I'd been at the department in the city so long. I grew up in the area. So my friends, they all knew that I worked there. I lived in the city for a while. So, I would hear about things all the time, and the power of social media and everybody knowing that you work in the department. I would get calls, or I remember one time I drove by and there's crime scene tape up, a whole thing. And I'm going, that's cool. I mean, did I miss a message? Hold on, let me check my phone. No, I didn't miss any calls. And it does happen. And I get people put their blinders on and they're reacting to a threat. They're not trained. Their brains are not wired to immediately think about the PIOs. And of course, officer safety and tactics come first. Absolutely. Right. It is so common. And when I go teach classes, that's one of the top complaints of people is that the communication internally is horrible. So
how do you get buy-in?
I think some of the things that you have to do, some of the things that, eventually over time worked with me is being able to, tap into the what's in it for me concept. So when you have PIO and it's, you're wanting to get information about a case or a suspect that's wanted or solicit the public's help, and then they see the benefit of it because you have someone call in and you're able to find a missing person or able to, capture a suspect because you've leveraged the media and the PIO role. Then they start seeing like, okay, I get it. It starts to click, but sometimes you got to kind of force feed it to them. I always would attend briefings as much as I could, and I'd sit there and listen to them and talk about cases and things that were going on and go, hey, you know what, that's really good footage. Do you mind if we put that out, or do you want me to write something up? Where it's almost, you have to be proactive. Then they start seeing the value. Another thing that we did was all management, we did corporals and up. We did a department-wide training, and we talked about the importance of it. We did case studies. We brought in our local media and did a panel where they can meet them face to face and teach them how to handle basic, simple media inquiries about a road closure over a TC, so that I'm not getting called at 2 a.m. So those are some things that worked for me, that were able to get them to be on board a little bit more with the role of the PIO.
We did something similar where we did a training, especially for new sergeants, but we did it for any sergeant or any lieutenant. We don't have corporals anymore, but we did that for them so that they could understand what we were going to come out for and what was expected of them to get information to the public.
Right.
And then we actually had a reporter come in and videotape them and do an interview with them, and then they sent back the videos for them to see how they reacted. It actually worked very well, and it was funny. So the buy-in from them, from these new supervisors, all of a sudden now they're calling us saying, "Hey, I got this. What are your thoughts?" And all of a sudden it's a different perspective for them, realizing we're going to make their life easier if they just give us a little bit of information.
Absolutely. And now you're seeing, which I love. I have the opportunity to speak at a lot of supervisor schools. I've had a lot of agencies bring me in to do private trainings for all their supervisors, just going over the things that you talked about. So they're getting it, they're understanding the importance of it. And, like you said, once they realize, okay, this is going to make everyone's life easier, then they'll get the buy-in for sure.
And I think part of it is you're seeing a younger group of chiefs and deputy chiefs in now, where they understand the need for social media. They understand the need for a very good spokesperson for their department. Right. So, Tamrin, what are your thoughts surrounding holding statements?
I definitely think that, it's so important to get a statement out there that's provides, I would say what you can, when you can. If there is no legitimate reason to hold back, there's hold back information. I get that, to protect the integrity of investigation, or obviously for officer safety reasons. Say what you can, when you can, and be timely. That's what I see, is people get so caught up in, okay, we got to, run it up and down the chain of command 50 times, and we'll hold on, we got to wait for this, and don't say that. And now you're going, wait a minute, now we're playing catch up because we weren't timely. We didn't verify information that's already being put out there by the public and the media. And now we're trying to go and change the narrative and change misinformation that's out there. So much value in it if you do it right. What drives me nuts is we're stay out of the area. We're working investigation at, 1st Street and 3rd Street. Oh, okay. What does that, what type of investigation? Is there a public safety risk? Tell the public what they need to know, what they need to do. Do they need to evacuate? Do they need to keep an eye out for a suspect that's at large? Do they need to take a different route home because now it's messing up with their commute because there's a road closure? Those are some of the things that people don't realize, the importance of putting out that statement and putting out as much information as you can, when you can.
I read something that you talked about the value of LinkedIn for agencies. Let's talk about how it's kind of underrated for law enforcement agencies.
I definitely think it's the underdog. It's kind of the best kept secret, especially over the last few years, for the specific purpose of recruitment. We all know pretty much every agency in the public safety space, government space, and even other non-government agencies, they're dealing with recruitment and retention issues. And when you look at how saturated all the platforms are, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, when you're looking to get a better pool of people who are professionally minded, who are on the platform specifically for professional opportunities, connections, and development, you're going to get a better return on investment. So maybe you're not going to get the 50,000 views on the video. It's not the platform that you're going to put the, dancing TikTok dancing cop video on. But even, let's say, instead of on your regular platforms, you're putting out 3 to 5 posts a week, maybe you're only posting on LinkedIn once a week. but it's relevant toward the audience, you're going to get more attention of these potential candidates who are going to want to come over to your organization if you have a good content strategy and you're in there engaging on a regular basis.
So let's talk about the content strategy for that, because I think that recruitment is, like you said, it is number one for every agency. We're down 80 people right now,
Oh my goodness.
and we're on a continuous hire now. So
Yeah.
we're adding, trying to add every day. But let's talk about a content strategy for that. What kind of strategy would you utilize for recruitment?
I think what you have to do is take a look at what are some of the things that the qualifications that you're looking for. What are some of the things that your ideal candidate values? Maybe if you're looking at lateral applicants versus recruit applicants on the sworn side, the things that they're looking for and valuing and the opportunities or the benefits or all those other things is going to look a little bit different. But look at those things. Okay, maybe you have a lateral bonus, or they could bring over some of their time from their other department, or obviously the retirement, that's a big thing where you're talking about that. Moving stipends. What are some of the things that could attract them from just a pure contractual standpoint? I mean, we all know people looking at numbers. Everyone's hiring, they're going to compare. They're going to look at the salaries. People are doing salary surveys where they know where each agency ranks amongst their competitor agencies. So I think that putting information out there that's going to pull them in from a monetary and benefit standpoint is going to be great. Highlighting the different opportunities that are available. If there are special assignment opportunities that are unique to your organization, highlight that. If there is technologies, I'm working with a police department right now that uses a lot of advanced technology. They deploy drones on calls for service, real-time crime center, real-time 911, where they're big on technology. There are a lot of people who go, okay, wow, they invest in technology and they're innovative and they're creative. They're open to trying new things. So those are things that you might have people who are interested in. Those are values and things that they want in an employer. So think about what's going to attract somebody. You also want to provide resources. So, what's the, and answer think about your frequently asked questions. What is the department issue? How long is the process? What does it entail? What are some tips on how to pass each step of the process? When we build our recruitment websites, that's huge right now. We're doing recruitment videos and recruitment websites left and right for agencies all over. As we look at, okay, if I'm an applicant and I'm going over to your site, I should be able to know each step of the process, what it entails, how much time it's going to take, and how I can be successful. So that way, I could have a better chance of getting through the process. And I'm telling you that if they come across your stuff and they see videos with their officers giving, talking about their experience and how they're valued and the opportunities that they've had, and having stuff that resonates with them, and they're having 10 pages of resources for them, and then the other agency has a website that they can't even open on a mobile device, clearly they're going to go to you. And you have to use modern marketing concepts. So all that translates over to your content strategy and bringing value and staying in tune with what these applicants are looking for, and also what you're looking for, and implementing and integrating that.
And it's not always the pay, like the bonus pay, like the sign-on pay, that gets people. I've seen this more and more where agencies are offering,
oh my gosh,
$20,000.
No, I saw one, I think in California at our conference, they said, I think it's like $40,000. It's insane.
And you have to wonder, why would they be offering that much money to bring people in? What's going on there?
What's funny is one of the chiefs that I was working with on a recruitment project, we did our intake meeting and we go over, what are you looking for? What direction do you want this project? And he said, you know what? I see all these agencies popping up with all their lateral incentives. If that's purely the reason why you want to come work here, then I don't want you here. Which I respect that. And there is a lot to say about that, because everyone's, hanging a dollar signs out there at the station window trying to entice people. And yeah, is that great? Of course, who doesn't want money? But if you're not being valued, if you don't have opportunities, if you're not going to be vested in the department and it's not going to meet your needs and check those other boxes, really, the vanity of the money is gonna wear off for sure.
And you're not going to stay either. I
No,
mean, you're going to
absolutely.
eventually
Full
leave.
loyalty. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and if you're not bought into the community, if that's not something that's going to be of value to you, that it's only going to hurt you even more.
Right. Absolutely.
Tamrin, is there a book or author that had some influence on you?
Um, Not specifically. I mean, I am trying, one of my New Year's goals is to read more. So I have been reading more, but just as a business owner for development on the business side, E-Myth was a really good book that I recently read. I love Maxwell's books, for a leadership development standpoint. In general, I've read a couple times actually, which is kind of random, The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker. I think that that's a great book. If you have kids too and they're of age, teenagers should read just to protect yourself and having the mindset of being aware and safe, especially nowadays. So yeah, just kind of a mix of things, but no one really specifically.
Okay. All right. Last question before we jump into rapid fire. Is there a question that you wish I asked that I didn't, and how would you have answered?
Maybe pet peeves or like things that I hate or absolute, am completely against in the PIO space.
Go ahead.
And it drives me nuts when people say no comment, or I see them quoted as providing no statement in a story. It's crazy to me that this still happens. When you're doing an interview, even if you don't have anything to say, there are a billion other things you could say besides no comment. And when papers have a whole story and you complain, oh, well, that's not accurate, that's not correct. Well, they reached out to you for a statement and you didn't provide anything. So you always have to look at it at interview equals opportunity. That's opportunity to tell your side of the story, even if it's a few sentences. So no comment, no statement drives me nuts.
I liked it. Interview is opportunity. I love that. All right, Tamrin, rapid fire questions. Here we go. Texting or talking?
Texting.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee. I love coffee.
Adult drink of choice?
It was red wine for a long time, but I jumped ship and now I'm on spicy margaritas.
Oh, spicy margaritas. That's
yeah,
different.
jalapeno margaritas. So
Ooh.
Good.
Okay. All right. Name a food you will not eat.
I cannot stand black olives. Regular olives, fine. Purple, green, black olives, cannot eat those.
What would be your superpower if you had one?
I would say to heal people. Cancer, disease, illness is just so unfortunate to have to deal with. So probably be that.
I'm going to skip this next one. We already know what your pet peeve is. Ask permission or beg forgiveness?
Oh, beg for forgiveness, 100%. I say that all the time in my social media classes. If they have an idea and a concept, as long as it's not going to bite you in the butt and make the agency look bad, go for it.
Awesome. If you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would you choose?
Oh, Jesus, for sure.
Okay. All right. I like that. All right. Final thoughts there. Tamrin, what key points would you like to listen? What would you like our listeners to take away today?
I think one of the things that, we have to remind ourselves of is, don't be discouraged. It is a challenging assignment. Sometimes I see people who feel burned out. They feel that they're not valued. They feel like they're not part of the team, or that they are not appreciated. And I think that, you have to, don't be discouraged. There's a lot of other PIOs out there that they get frustrated, that don't get called when things happen, but you have to be your own advocate and keep pushing forward. You have a valuable position, a huge valuable role, and you have to keep advocating for yourself.
Thank you. And how could people best reach out to you if they'd like to connect or follow up or take one of your trainings?
So I'm personally all over social media at Tamrin Olden, TAMRINOLDEN. And then my website and all the company stuff is under TOC, publicrelations.com is the website.
And I will add all that into the show notes. Tamrin, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Another huge thank you to the Social Media Strategies Summit for being a sponsor of the PIO podcast. Join their First Responders Summit this April or their Government Summit this May. Learn more about confirmed speakers and programming at socialmediastrategiessummit.com and use promo code PIO Podcast for 10% off of your registration.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast to get notified of the latest episode. If you are listening on a platform that allows reviews, please give us a review. We appreciate any review, good or bad. It helps us improve on each episode. Until next time, be safe.